szlájdjaim, ami angolul vannak. Tisztelettel köszöntök mindenkit Brüsszelből. Én Brüsszelben ülök az állandó képviseleten, és hát a mai kalapom, amivel előadok, az tulajdonképpen, ahogy Dorottya fogalmazott, a CBE JU-nak a State Representative Group, tehát a tagállamok képviselőcsoportjának vagyok a magyar küldöttje. Ez a csoport tulajdonképpen egy konzultatív csoport, mivel a CBE JU egy ipari kutatási innovációt támogató eszköz. Engedjék meg, hogy bemutassam az én előadásomnak a célja az, hogy felvezessem a CBE JU előadót, Pilar Llornette-t. Tulajdonképpen a célom az, hogy egy kicsit beszéljek a CBE JU-ról, az előzményekről, és képbe helyezzem önöket. Valószínűleg önök már ismerik ezt a kezdeményezést, ismerik részleteibe, de talán azokhoz szólok, akik kevésbé vagy először vannak itt, vagy hallanak a kezdeményezésről. Tehát a CBE JU az angol rövidítés, a körforgásos bioalapú Európa közös kezdeményezésnek. Miről is szól ez a kezdeményezés, vagy minek is a a következménye, így fogalmaznék, hát volt egy előd, amit a BBI JU bioalapú ipari kezdeményezés, amely 2014 és 2020 között működött. Ennek a folytatásaként jött létre a körforgásos biomassza alapú ipari kezdeményezés. Ez egy PPP, egy magán és egy úgynevezett magán és közpartnerség, az Európai Bizottság és egy úgynevezett Bio-Based Industries konzorcium, tehát egy ipari szereplők által létrehozott konzorcium között. Tehát tulajdonképpen az magán rész az ipari szereplőknek a konzorciuma, az állami vagy a public, a közcélt a bizottság viszi ebben. Ezért mondtam az elején, hogy ez a State Representative Group tulajdonképpen egy tanácsadó testülete ennek, a fő döntést a bizottság és az ipari konzorcium hozza. Az ipari konzorciumban bárki tagja lehet, jelentkezhet, nem csak cégek, vállalatok, hanem akár régiók, önkormányzatok. Ahogy mondtam, ez egy folytatása egy programnak, 2021-2027 között van a hivatalos időpont, ameddig tart, de tulajdonképpen a projektek várhatóan 2031-ig fejeződnek be. A költségvetést fele-fele részben egyrészt a bizottság, másrésztről az ipari szereplők állják. A tőkeátét az tulajdonképpen 1:1-hez, de várhatóan 1:5-höz lesz, tehát az ipari szereplők sokkal többet fektetnek be a hozzáadott értéket a pályázatokba. Egy kicsit szeretnék reflektálni arra, hogy annak idején mi volt a BBI JU, tehát a bioalapú ipari kezdeményezés az első 7 évnek a hiányossága, és tulajdonképpen ezen segített a CBE JU. Azért hangsúlyozom ezt, mert ez fontosabb a mi kelet-európai országainknak, Kelet-Európában, Magyarországnak. Egyfelől indítványozta a mostani partnerség, hogy szélesebb körbe vonják be főleg az alapanyag termelőket, tehát az agrár, a mező, az erdő és a vízgazdálkodáshoz kapcsolódó biomassa termelést, a regionális központokat, valamint a városokat, tehát a regionális szereplőket, önkormányzatokat. Erősebb fókusz van a környezeti hatások mérésén, ennek az értékelésén, ennek a metodológiájának a kidolgozásán, erősebb a kommunikáció és tulajdonképpen a promózása a biomassa alapú gazdaságnak, valamint a magánszektor pénzügyi hozzájárulás feltételének megerősítése. Tehát az első a
Bocsánat,
BBI-GU-ban nem...
hogy
Igen?
közbeszólok, ha még csak a legelső diád látszik, a címdia maga.
Ezt jó, hogy szóltál, akkor itt probléma van, mert én látom, hogy fut a dia, és hol tudom ezt vajon változtatni? Post sharing, zoom. Ez a te esetedben is fennáll, Dorottya.
Hogy nem prezenter módban
Igen,
ment ez.
de most látszik, hogy vált, mert itt nálam vált.
Nem látszik még.
Nálam vált ezt kilépjek teljesen, post sharing, stop sharing.
Vagy hogyha gondolod, akkor megosztom én, de nekem ugye csak a régebbi van meg.
most újra megosztottam. A kérdésem tulajdonképpen az, hogy mit láttok.
Még most a legelső diád, de nem prezenter módban,
Én azt is prezenter módban látom.
hanem csak
Prezentációban. Ez. Meg tudod osztani? Próbáld meg. Szerintem nem nálam van a probléma. Én nem tudok, nem
jó,
tudom jobban.
egy pillanat.
Kilépek belőle. Stop sharing. Vagy megpróbálom még ezt még egyszer, hogy nézzük a...
Igen, szerintem próbáld meg úgy, hogy amúgy nem kapcsolod be a prezenter módot, és akkor esetleg váltanak a diák, én közben keresem a tiédet a leveledésben, és akkor letöltöm, hogyha mégsem menne.
Elnézést kérünk mindenkitől. Mit láttok, Dorottya, tudod jelezni, hogy...
Most jelenleg a képernyődet.
Hát, akkor ez... nem megy.
Megteszted, hogy átküldöd nekem most azt a diasort, amit te használtál, és akkor megnyitom én.
Elméletileg ott kell legyen nálad, küldtem ma reggel. Elküldtem. Vagy nincs meg, ami
Elnézést, hogy
van. Igen?
résztvevőként közbeszólok, nem tudom, hogy
Igen?
hallatszott-e. Lehet, hogy PDF-be átkonvertálva működhet, esetleg ha a PowerPoint tényleg nem, én oktatóként szintén tapasztaltam ilyet, hogy a diákjaim nem látták a diasort, amikor én prezentáltam, tehát hasonló a dolog, és akkor megoldottuk úgy, hogy PDF-be léptettem oldalanként. Talán működik így.
Nézzük. Screensaver. PDF. Share. Hogy tudom nagy ablakba tenni. Mit látok? Kérlek, hogy... Dorottya, mit láttok tőlem? Halló, itt
Én is
vagytok?
próbáltam meg már. Most a diasorodnak az első részét, de PDF-ben, úgyhogy ez most így jó, mert így tudod léptetni, tehát most látjuk már a diákat, ahogy mozgatod.
Jó, olvasod, teljes képernyőben van, vagy nincs teljes képernyőben?
Nem, nincs teljes képernyőben, de nem tudom, hogyha átteszik, akkor ez befolyásolja-e.
Kép, hozzáadás, ezt nem tudom, hogy tesszük teljes képernyőbe.
Ez a maximum, amit PDF-be
Igen, én
tehetsz.
is azt hiszem,
Igen.
hogy ennyit tudok tenni. Jó, elnézést kérek ezért a kavar, és köszönöm, hogy szóltak, hogy nem működik. Folytatom akkor. Tulajdonképpen ott maradtam el, hogy a CBE JU hiányosságaira épít a CBE JU. Elnézést ezekért a rövidítésekért, maradjunk abba, hogy CBE JU ez a rövidítése a mostani PPP-nek. Tulajdonképpen amit még kiemelnék, ez az 5. pont a slide-nak az alsó részén a widening országok, tehát azok az országok, amelyek egy kicsit le vannak maradva kutatás és innovációba, azoknak a jobb bevonására ad nagyobb figyelmet. Tehát összefoglalva 50-50%-ba adja az ipari szereplő és a bizottsága a költségvetést, nagyobb, szélesebb körű szereplő szereplőknek a bevonására törekszik, tehát főleg az agrár, tehát az alapanyag termelés oldaláról, tehát a mezőgazdaság, az erdőgazdálkodás, vízgazdálkodás oldaláról, regionális szereplők bevonását teszi lehetővé, metodológiát dolgoz, erősebben fókuszál a metodológiára, és ugyanakkor próbálja azokat a megvalósításokat, ami eddig már megtörtént, használni azt abban a formában, hogy tehát az eddig megtörtént pályázatok outputját azokba az országokba is kitegye, ahol nem volt pályázat. Mi a CBE JU célja? Tehát egyfelől egy szélesebb szereplői kör bevonása, akik érdekeltek a biomassza, ideértve a biológiai hulladék ipari célú hasznosításába. Tehát olyan projekteket finanszíroz, amelyek nem egy végső piacon levő technológiát vásárolnak, ez nagyon fontos. Többször találkozom azzal a kéréssel Magyarországról, hogy ebben hogy tudunk segíteni, vagy hogy tud segíteni a CBU. Tehát nem egy végső technológia fejleszti, hanem a technológia, magának a technológiának kifejlesztésében, tehát a TRL, Technology Readiness Level, tehát a technológiai készültsége állapot 3-tól 8-as fokozatig, ez 1-től 9-ig tart a Technology Readiness Level, tehát az alapprototípus demonstrációs piaci bevezetés előtti fázisról beszélünk. Tehát a piaci bevezetés előtti fázisról beszélünk. Potenciális technológiák regionális adaptálására is figyel, itt külön a kutatási innovációt igényel az, hogy a sokszor kockázatos, éppen ezért fontos a finanszírozása, amely képes a kockázati terheket csökkenteni. Tehát miről beszélek, magyarul is érthető legyen. Tehát a kockázati terheket próbálja csökkenteni ez a pályázat azokban az esetekben, amikor ezek a befektetések, főleg úgy, hogy nem közvetlen, vagy nem még piacra jutást finanszíroz, ezért tulajdonképpen leveszi a piaci szereplő válláról azt a terhet, ami a kockázatokkal jár. Az elmúlt 7 évben, ezt úgy mondanám, az elmúlt 7 évet, hogy az előző periódusban, európai programozási periódusban 14 és 20 között kb. 3 milliárd eurót költött az EU a BBI JU-ra, a mostani időszakban 2 milliárd euró van előirányozva, hogy mondtam, 50-50%-ban. Emellett még említeném, hogy az Európai Fejlesztési Banknak is van 0%-os hitele lehetősége a biomassza alapú gazdasági szereplők fejlesztéseinek a finanszírozására. Milyen témái projekteket finanszíroz a CBE JU? Tehát ahogy mondtam, a biomassza alapú ipari ágazatok azok, amelyek, tehát azért határozom meg, hogy egyértelmű legyen, amely biológiai erőforrásokat és folyamatokat használnak élelmiszer, takarmány, bioalapú termékek, energia és szolgáltatások előállítására. Tehát ez az ipari ágazatok, viszont ebből fontos kiemelni, hogy a CBE JU nem finanszíroz konkrétan élelmiszer, tehát food és takarmány feed vonatkozású gyógyszer vagy orvosi eszközök, ugyanakkor bioüzemanyagok és bioenergia fejlesztésére törekvő projekteket. Miért fontos ez? Nagyon sokan kérdezik, hogy élelmiszer, takarmány, gyógyszer, bioüzemanyag, bioenergia. Ez főleg a mi kelet-európai országainkban, Magyarországon ezt jelenti nekünk a bioeconomy, de tulajdonképpen sokkal inkább itt a köztes részek, tehát nem zárja ki az élelmiszert és takarmányt, élelmiszer és takarmány összetevők kutatása lehet, mezőgazdasági tápanyagok, trágya, biológiai trágya, tehát ennek a fejlesztése benne van a kiírásokban, viszont ami konkrét élelmiszer, vagy bioüzemanyag, vagy bioenergia, az nincs. Kiemeltem, hogy több kimenetes biofinomítók esetében, tehát a Modern Biorefinery koncept mögött levő több outputos termelés mellett, ami magába foglalhat energiát, ez nem kizáró, de a pályázat semmiképpen nem az energiára kell fókuszáljon, hanem a melléktermékre, vagy a főtermék és mellette melléktermék az energia, de semmiképpen nem nem a bioüzemanyag vagy bioenergia fejlesztésére. Kapacitája a biomassa lépcsőzetes felhasználását, tehát az hozzáadott érték alapján a minél jobb felhasználást részesíti előnybe. Ugyanakkor kérdés Európában nagyon sokszor a kisországokban, főleg a rövid ellátási lánc, a biomassa hozzáférés, beszerzés, ilyen kiírások jelennek meg, az éghajlati és környezeti teljesítménynek a vizsgálata régióra vonatkozóan fontos szempont, figyelmet fordít azokra a tevékenységekre, amelyek lehetővé teszik a hulladékok, maradékanyagok és mellékáramlatok átalakítását. Tehát nagyon erősen fókuszál ebbe az irányba. A tevékenységek hozzá kell járulniuk a helyi és regionális gazdaságok fejlesztéséhez, miközben csökkentik a természeti erőforrások behozatalától való függőséget. Azért sorolom ezeket, mert néha megfeledkezünk a pályázatírás közben, hogy melyek azok a főbb kritériumok, amik úgy általában meg kell feleljen a pályázatnak a kiírásban, bármilyen kiírás is legyen az. Kicsit engedjetek meg beszélni arról, hogy milyen projekteket is finanszírozunk. Mit jelent ez a TRL level, mit jelent az a Technology Readiness level, tehát a technológiai megfelelési szint. Tehát általában az egyetemek 1, 2, 3-as szinten vannak, míg a piacra jutás az a 9-es szint, amikor már egy végső technológia piacra jut. Maga a CBE JU 2 részben finanszíroz 3 projekttel. Tehát a Research and Innovation Action, tehát a kutatás és innovációs akciók, ez a TRL 3, 4, 5-ös része, ami tulajdonképpen pilot projekteket, tehát még kutatás és nem egészen innováció, tehát meg a kutatásból az innovációs fázisba való átjutást finanszíroz, ezek a Research and Innovation Action. A 6-7-8, amikor már tulajdonképpen az innováció megtörténik, de nem biztos, hogy piacra tud jutni, vagy nem biztos, hogy piacképes, nem biztos, hogy eléri a piacképességet, azért fogalmazok ilyen sokféleképpen, mert itt a rizikós rész, itt vannak azok a nagyobb demonstrációs projektek, lehetőségek, és tulajdonképpen az utolsó fázisban a flagshipek, amikor már valószínűleg piacra fog jutni egy termék, ezeket finanszírozhatja, de tudni kell, vagy látni kell, vagy érdemes látni, hogy nem azokban a témakörökben, ahol már egyszer megtörtént a finanszírozás az elmúlt években, ott nem lesz újabb kiírás, hogy újra finanszírozza, mert tulajdonképpen a kiváló kutatást finanszírozza ez az eszköz. Tehát összefoglalva a 3-4-5 TRL level és az Innovation Action-ök a 6-7-8, emellett, ami érdekesebb lehet, főleg a szakpolitika oldaláról, főleg a regionális vagy önkormányzatok szempontjából ezek a Coordination and Support Action, ez az úgynevezett koordinációs és támogató akciók, ami szintén egy kiírás, kisebb volumenű kiírások, a meglévő tudást szedi össze, és valamilyen formában tálalja, főleg a döntéshozók számára. Ez a 3 kiírás van a csomagban, részleteiben a kolléga fog beszélni róla az elkövetkezendő előadásban. Csak hogy egy kicsit felvillantsam ezt, valószínűleg önök is ismerik, a néhány nagyobb flagship projekt, ami fut, és az utóbbi időben nyílt tulajdonképpen Kelet-Közép-Európába, az északi, a balti országba, Észtországba, Litvániába. Ez a többek között például a 3-as, a Sweet Food Project, ami a cukorkivonás és a cellulózból és a cukorkivonásra koncentrál, a 4-es a szintén erdő alapú biomasszára fókuszál. Tehát vannak olyan nagyobb projektek, ez itt közel a 100 milliós nagyságrendig, amelyekbe beszáll a CBE JU, ezek azok a flagshipek, amik hamarosan elérik a piacot, tehát gyakorlatilag utolsó fázisos demonstrációs projektek. Alapvetően itt a kép lefedi azt a részt, amiről kellene most egy kicsit felvillantsam, a Sweet Food kép, hogy Kelet-Közép-Európában nagyon kevés flagship projektünk van. Ha itt lenne a demonstrációs projektes térkép, akkor azt látnánk, hogy a demo fázisban, tehát a 6-7-8, ott is nagyon-nagyon-nagyon kevés európai, kelet-európai projekt van, ez főleg Nyugat-Európára és koncentrálódik. Fontos tehát, hogy ezen segítsünk, és hát Magyarországon is jó lenne, hogyha lenne flagship meg demonstrációs projektünk. Mennyi erőforrást hoztunk el eddig, vagy mennyi forrást hoztunk el a CBE JU előtt programjából, itt a BBI JU-ról? Hát a magyar kép az egyfelől kelet-európai összehasonlításban is gyenge, ugyanakkor meg a nyugatihoz hasonlítva, tehát az EU15-höz, az EU13-ból hát nagyon el vagyunk maradva. Ahhoz képest, amilyen mekkora biomassa potenciálunk van, meg lehetne, meg akár gondolkodhatnánk ebben az iparágban. Nem részletezem jobban, reméljük, hogy az elkövetkező időszak, meg ez az esemény is, amin ma részt vesznek, vagy részt vesztek, segít abban, hogy kicsit jobban szerepeljünk a pályázatokon. Engedjétek meg, hogy arról is beszéljek, hogy épül fel a pályázat háttere, tehát tulajdonképpen az éves munkaprogram, amivel ma szembesültök, az már egy folyamatnak a vége, vagy én azért szoktam mondani a vége, mert itt már a kész kiírás van. Szerintem a kolléganő fog olyan ábrát mutatni, rámutat arra, hogy amikor a kiírás megtörténik, már egy-két nappal rá beadnak pályázatokat, az azt jelenti, hogy előre készülnek konzorciumok. Tehát ez egy nagyon kompetitív kiírás sorozat, de hogy épül fel, azt érdemes tudni, vagy érdemes a háttérbe ismerni, hogy van egy stratégiája a CBE JU-nak, ez a Stratégiai Kutatás és Innovációs Menetrend, vagy Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda. Ez tulajdonképpen az ipar és az ipari szereplők, tehát a BIC konzorcium és a bizottság fogadja el. Ez adja a keretét a 7 évnek, tehát a minden éves munkaprogramnak. Ezt érdemes ismerni, hogy látni, hogy hová, milyen célra fog koncentrálni a CBE JU. Ugyanakkor az elmúlt években jelent meg, tulajdonképpen a tavalyi évben fogadta el a CBE JU egy úgynevezett widening stratégiát, ami azokra az országokra vonatkozik, vagy azokat az országokat teszi előtérbe, ahol gyengébb a kutatás és innovációs szereplés. És ennek is hatása van az éves munkaprogramra, tehát érdemes ismerni ezt a widening stratégiát is, bármilyen kiírás van, nem csak a kiírás szövegére kell koncentrálni, hanem erre a 2 kutatási menetrendre érdemes koncentrálni, mert gyakorlatilag ez határozza meg az éves munkaprogramot, és akkor ebben a felhívásokat. Tehát egy kicsit a hátteret, a koncepciót szerettem volna felvázolni ezzel a slide-a fóliával, hogy lássák, hogy hogyan is épül fel az éves munkaprogram. Ennek a befolyásolása tulajdonképpen az éves munkaprogramot a CBE JU-ban történik, tehát főleg az ipari szereplés, a bizottság dönti el. Amikor mondtam, hogy a State Representative Group, amelynek tagja vagyok, mi tulajdonképpen egy megfigyelői, egy tanácsadói státusban vagyunk, van lehetőségünk hozzászólni az éves munkaprogram kidolgozásához, nem döntő szerepbe, de van hozzá lehetőség beleszólni. Éppen ezért fontos néha a feedback, tehát a visszacsatolás a részükről, az ipari szereplők részéről, a magyar ipari szereplők részéről, hogy tulajdonképpen mit várnánk el az elkövetkezendő időszakba, kiírásokba, mert akkor ilyen alapon valamilyen formában lehet befolyásolni a programozást, az éves munkaprogramokat, nem egy az egybe, ez természetesen nem tőlünk függ, a javaslat nem úgy történik, hogy akkor a magyar szereplő vagy a magyar tag beküld egy javaslatot, és azt figyelembe veszik, de hogyha több ország rácsatlakozik ugyanarra a javaslatra, akkor el lehet érni azt, hogy olyan kiírás, vagy a kiírást úgy alakítsuk, ami közelebb áll a pályázókhoz ebben az adott tagországban, vagy tagországokban. Azért hangsúlyozom ezeket ki ilyen részletesen, hogy önök is lássák, hogy fontos a munkaprogram megjelenése előtti időszak, amikor kidolgoznák, mert akkor lehet igazán rákészülni a felhívásokra. Tulajdonképpen elkezdtem már beszélni a CBE JU kiírás befolyásolására, tehát ismerni kell ezeket a stratégiai dokumentumokat, és tulajdonképpen, amit még kiemelnék emellett, hogy ne ismételjem magam, fontos előre tisztázni mindenki számára, hogy milyen fázisban van az a pályázat, vagy amit szeretnénk beadni. Alapkutatás, pilot, demonstrációs, vagy úgymond zászlóshajó flagship projektbe gondolkodunk. Ha végső technológiát nem finanszíroz a CBE JU, ott már érdemes az EIB-hoz, az European Investment Bankhoz menni, ahol kap egy 0%-os, van rá esély, hogy kapjon egy 0%-os hitelt a befektetés. Ahogy már meséltem, a kiírásokat lehet alakítani a saját prioritásaink szerint, nem egyértelmű, nem direkt, nem kézzelfogható, de ha van egy szorosabb együttműködés az ipari szereplők és köztünk, úgy mondanám az NKFIH irányába az elkövetkezendő időszakban van visszajelzés, hogy mit szeretnének látni, akkor talán sikerül befolyásolni a következő évekkel kiírásait abba az irányba, hogy hogy mi is jelenjen meg, de fontos látni, hogy ami már volt finanszírozva, azt nem hozza újra vissza a program. Azokban a tématerületeken, ahol finanszírozás már megtörtént, ott árnyaltabban vagy más irány, tehát csak részeit tudjuk visszahozni, vagy lehet visszahozni egy következő kiírásba. Én szerintem ennyit akartam mondani így felvezetőbe, a kolléga lesz sokkal részletesebb, a CBE JU képviselője, Pilar Llornette lesz az, aki elmagyarázza a mostani call-t, az éves munkaprogramot. Én állok rendelkezésre, itt leszek a question, tehát a kérdés és válaszok alatt is, hogyha irányomban van kérdésük, állok rendelkezésre, de az elkövetkezendő időszakban is állok rendelkezésükre, kérdéseik vannak, bármikor elérhető vagyok. Köszönöm a figyelmüket, remélem sikerült követni, elnézést kérek az első malőrért. Remélem, hogy követhető voltam és érthető voltam. Köszönöm, hogy meghallgattak.
Köszönjük, Barna. Thank you very much. And now, Pilar, I would like to ask you to share your screen and start your presentation. And I also would like to notice everyone that this presentation will be in English.
Good morning, everyone. Let me try to share the presentation mode. Can you see it well?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, very good. So, good morning. My name is Pilar Llornette. I'm a program officer at CBE JU, and I'm very pleased to be today with you in this info day. I'm going to talk a bit about the call, the open call of this year, call 2024, and also later on, I'll give you some tips on how to prepare a proposal. In this first introductory part, I will go very quickly through it, since Barna already gave a very good and detailed presentation on CBE JU. So this is just very briefly to recall, it's a private-public partnership between the European Commission and big consortium aiming at developing sustainable and competitive bio-based industries and replacing the current fossil-based product by sustainable bio-based ones. And we build on the work previously done on the BBI-JU partnership. And we work and operate fully under Horizon Europe program. Some important aspects are, of course, the environmental aspects are at the core of our program. We aim at contributing to the 2030 and 2050 climate targets in the EU by reducing the CO2 emissions and greenhouse gas emissions. We want also to produce not only bio-based product, but sustainable bio-based product in all their dimensions, environmental, economic, and social, and circular product, meaning with an improved end of life, being biodegradable, recyclable, or reusable. And a very important aspect is the use of feedstock that is sustainably sourced. It is mainly residues from biomass, agriculture, forestry, also aquaculture, fisheries, organic waste, all types of biomass, sourced sustainably and locally. And by doing so, we expect to have a positive regional development and contribute to dynamizing rural economies. As Barna already said, we have three main global objectives. First is to push, to accelerate the research and innovation in the bio-based industries landscape. Second, it's not only to develop these technologies and processes, but to accelerate the market deployment, to bring them to higher TRL levels so that they are deployed and they get with solutions to the markets. And while doing so, we want to keep very high standards of environmental performance. So we are funding different type of projects and different TRLs. Also, I will go quickly through this since Barna also explained it. We have research and innovation actions going from TRL 3, which is laboratory, to TRL 5, pilot scale. Then innovation actions, which are at a higher TRL from TRL 6, a whole integrated system in an industrial landscape, to TRL 8, which is already a pre-commercial biorefinery. And this is what we call flagship plant, a pre-commercial first-of-the-kind biorefinery in Europe. And then we have also CSAs, coordination and support actions, which are non-technological projects that address other challenges related to policy, to standardization, to communication, to community building, and so on. So far, this is a summary, let's say a brief, in a nutshell, what our projects do and mean so far. So we have 163 projects, still not counting those that were that are now under grant agreement preparation. So we will add another 30, but for the moment, 163 science projects with nearly 2,000 beneficiaries from 40 countries. And as you see, most of them, 62%, are private companies, as it is to be expected in a private public partnership with a strong industrial drive. But also, not to be neglected, it's key the participation of universities and research centers, since they are bringing the technologies and processes that are then to be taught. Another important aspect is that within the private sector, there is a very high participation of the small and medium enterprises, 40%, which is also a very positive characteristic of our program. Here you can see the map of Europe with the demo plans. Demo plans are those that are from TRL 6 to 7, and from flagships, those that are at a pre-commercial level. So you see there are quite many in Europe. Unfortunately, not yet in Hungary, but this is what we want to see in the next round of projects, having already plans also in Hungary. So far, Hungarian participation, you can see it in the slide. There are 7 beneficiaries participating in different CBE JU projects, with a total fund of nearly 800,000 euro. Of these beneficiaries, 7 are small companies. And yeah, there are projects, you can find them in our website by going to the projects and filtering by country, so you can learn more about the participants and the type of work that is being done in your country. And now let's move on to the call that is open right now, the call 2024. We start with an overview of all topics. We have 18 topics in this call for a total budget of 213 million euro funding. You can see we have 3 flagship topics. These are the big projects up to TRL 8. 7 innovation actions up to TRL 7, 5 research innovation actions from TRL 3 to 5, and 3 CSAs. For innovation actions and RIAs, we typically fund 2 projects per topic, and for flagships and CSA, only 1 topic per project. And you can see on the right-hand side also the indicative budget. As for the topics, they cover a wide range of applications and feedstocks. You can see the flagships this year target the valorization of sustainable oil crops, but also the dedicated platform chemicals and the sustainable use of natural fiber feedstocks. For the innovation actions, they go from developing bio-based materials for biodegradable application in soil, to sustainable microalgae as feedstock for innovative applications, to sustainable solvents, construction and building materials, lignin-derived aromatics, innovative bio-based adhesives and binders, innovative conversion of gaseous carbon into bio-based products or chemicals. When we go to the research and innovation actions, we have topics on valorizing polluted or contaminated wood to use it for different applications, to biotech routes to obtain bio-based chemicals and materials to replace animal-derived ones, alternatives for crop protection, also bio-based coating materials, innovative bio-based food ingredients. So you see that most probably you can find a topic that is suitable for your idea, your technologies, or your processes. And as for the CSAs, we have a CSA dedicated to find new ways of cooperation in agriculture in the forest sector, to mobilize the participation of what we call widening countries, so countries that are not yet so present in the CBE program, and also to support the deployment group on primary producers, which aims also at increase the participation, the meaningful participation of primary producers in our project. So when you go to the annual work program and you read the topic, you will first find this table which summarizes key elements. First, you will see the type of action. So in this case, the example are research and innovation action. Okay, it can be innovation action, flagship, or CSA. You can see also the indicative budget for the whole topic. For example, 10 million euro for RIAS. You can find as well the estimated contribution that we think would allow for a project to cover all the expected outcomes and impacts in the topic. Nonetheless, we indicate an indicative amount, but you can submit proposals with different budgets. TRL, this is very, very important. We show here the TRL that your projects need to achieve at the end of the project. So the core technology should be at this TRL. But you also have to explain very clearly what is your starting TRL, and to show that over the course of the project, it is possible to go from your starting TRL to your end TRL. You will also find some links to the objectives in the CBE JU, which are set in the council regulation. So this will help you understand better what is the background intention of this topic. Reading the link to the specific CBE JU objective and also the link to the specific strategic priorities in this realm. We also indicate the KPIs, the key performance indicators that we are expecting you to contribute with this project. So by reading this and by reading the background document, the Strategic Research Innovation Agenda, you will have a more complete understanding of what we seek with this topic, and will allow you to prepare a proposal in a better that really fits well into it. So after this table, you will find the same way as in Horizon Europe, the expected outcomes and the scope. Expected outcomes and impacts, you will see how we are intending, which impacts we are intending to contribute with this topic. And this is what you also need to explain clearly in the proposal. What are your expected outcomes and impacts, and which measures of dissemination and exploitation or communication you're going to put in place to maximize those outcomes. The scope identifies the challenge that we are addressing. It's like the boundaries, the problem that we want to tackle. It does not specify how you exactly have to deal with it. It's up to you to come up with a solution, but it describes the framework of the challenge we're going to tackle. So when preparing your proposal, there are, let's say, three main elements that you have to consider. First, all the Horizon Europe rules for participation, eligibility, admissibility, because they all apply. We work within the Horizon Europe program, so all the Horizon Europe program apply to us. Second, very important to take into account the Horizon Europe evaluation criteria. So what are the criteria that the expert evaluators are considering when looking at your proposal. They are public, and we will go through them actually in this presentation for you to understand better which aspects need to be very clearly reflected in your proposal. The third element, and possibly most important, is the annual work program 24. There you will find the topics, of course, the topic you want to you address, to choose, but also there is a section on a specific requirement that apply for CBE JU program, which you need to include for all topics. And all this information, you need to make sure you include it in the proposal structure. And we will go into more detail on this in the second part of the presentation. But let me first give you some overview on these specific requirements of CBE JU. They are very important and they apply for all topics. Okay, so there is a first part that concerns the feedstock. I said at the beginning that it's very important that the feedstock is sustainably sourced. So you will see some requirements. First, on where are you sourcing this feedstock? So we are requesting you that you source this feedstock from EU or associated country that is in your neighborhood to avoid long transportation and long supply chains. Secondly, we have a set of sustainability requirements that are linked to climate change adaptation, to biodiversity preservation, to ensuring the non-pollution of water and soil and land. And you need to state that you indeed are compliant with these requirements. And we also require you to describe your feedstock very clearly. Which type of feedstock are you using? And to make sure that it complies with the key principles of food first, so it is not in competition with the food chain, and also of cascading use of biomass. So this is all about the feedstock. And then we move to the environmental requirements. There are some environmental requirements that should be already included in the proposal, and this we call ex-ante requirements, and others that you should carry out during the life of your project. And here we call them ex-post assessments. So what do you need to include already in the proposal? You need to identify what are the environmental issues that are more important for your technologies or process, and already provide an estimation of the environmental sustainability performance, showing how your processes or your product are actually performing better than the current alternatives available in the market. And you need to choose appropriate benchmarks to compare and to show that indeed your solutions are better from this environmental point of view. When it comes to the development of the project, we also request you to include some sort of environmental assessment. And it will be adapted to the TRL of your project. For research and innovation actions up to TRL 5, we request you to include a dedicated task where you do a preliminary assessment on the environmental aspect. For innovation actions, we would like you to include a life cycle assessment to be done over the project course. And for flagships, we recommend you to do a life cycle sustainability assessment. This should be included already in the work plan as part of your work, and you will carry out during the course of the project. A very important aspect as well is the multi-actor approach. What do we mean with this? We want that the project include all necessary actors across the value chain, end users, starting from primary producers over technology developers to end users, brand owners, consumers. All actors should be included in your project concept from the beginning, from the conception, when you're preparing the proposal, over the project implementation, and even beyond, when your solutions are going to the market or are being exploited. It's very important to create this, let's say, co-creation process between all actors to ensure that all their needs and specificities are well covered. Does this mean that you need to include all of them as partners in the consortium? Not necessarily. You may, but you can also find other ways of collaboration, agreements that don't involve bringing them into the consortium, but allow you to count on them and to engage them in the project. So we also have some requirements on the economic aspects, because as we said, we want our processes and products to be successful, to reach the market, and to have a positive socioeconomic impact in society. That's why we are requesting to do an economic viability check for research and innovation actions. We know that the TRL is still not so high, up to TRL 5, so you cannot build a full business plan for a research and innovation action, but you can already analyze the value chain. You can check what are the trends in the market for your products, what are the prices, how would be the competition when in the future you bring your product to the market. So this is what we call an economic viability check. In the case of innovation actions, including flagships, your project is already more developed. Your product is closer to the market. So you are already in a position to develop a business case and a business model, answering the questions of what are the needs of the markets and why is this solution worth to invest in. And then when it comes to flagships, because they are at a pre-commercial level, you already need to include a full-fledged business plan, including cost, revenues, cost forecast, timeline, actors involved, all types of regulatory, societal, economic considerations that might impact the uptake of your product. We have also another set of requirements that concern the digital technologies. So more and more often, digital technologies are present in our lives, needless to say, in the same way also in the bio-based industries. So we request you to check and include the digital technologies that are needed for you to fulfill your project. They might be related to process monitoring, to process optimization, or to any other steps of your processes. We ask you also to consider the inclusion of social sciences and humanities and to make your proposal cross-disciplinary. We are saying that we want to have a positive societal impact, so you need to count with all disciplines and actors, with also not only technological aspects, but behavioral, societal, educational aspects that will help your products be impactful in society. And lastly, we ask you to include for innovation actions and flagships some recommendations to stakeholders. So when developing your project, you may realize that there are some regulatory barriers, or that you face some issues with some policies of the implementation of your technology. So any sort of recommendations that you come up with over the project, we would like you to also include a task to develop and to explain these recommendations. So, as in a nutshell, talking about these specific requirements and about the proposal itself, some tips. It is very important that you follow the proposal template, and we will go to this later on, and you fit all these specific requirements in the place where they belong. You need to read carefully the evaluation criteria and sub-criteria. We will go to that later as well, and make sure that expert evaluators will find all the information they need to assess these criteria. It's very important to choose appropriate benchmarks, because we said before, you need to show how your process or product is going to be better performing than the current one. So you need to choose a good benchmark for comparison. Whenever you can provide evidence, reference, or calculation to support your claims, this will make your proposal to be more robust. Whenever possible, quantify your objectives, your performance, and your expected outcomes, and address all the elements included in the definition of business case, business model, business plan, and economic viability check. These are some recommendations regarding the specific requirements. Now let's move to the similarities and differences with Horizon Europe. So basically, we work within the Horizon Europe, and all rules of Horizon Europe apply. But there are some specificities that are highlighted in this slide. For example, the funding rate is slightly different for innovation actions. So we have a funding rate of 100% for RIAs. No matter what type of entity, they all receive 100% of the funding. For innovation actions, the funding is 60%, unless you are a non-profit entity, in which case you can get 100% of the funding. And for the CSAs, you also have 100% of funding. The award criteria and evaluation criteria are like anywhere in Horizon Europe: excellence, impact, and implementation. But in impact, we have an additional sub-criteria, and it's the ability to ensure a 15% for innovation actions or a 20% for flagship of in-kind contributions over the total eligible costs. I will explain this in the next slide, but this means that you need to contribute with at least 15 or 20% of your budget with own resources of big members to reach this minimum ICOP percentage. So as for the page limits, there are also some differences. We have longer, let's say you can include more pages in your proposals in CBE. The limit is 50 pages for research and innovation actions, 70 pages for innovation actions, and 30 for CSA. There are also some differences regarding the thresholds when evaluating your proposals. The thresholds for excellence and implementation are 3, as in Horizon Europe, but the threshold for impact is 4 out of 5. So the 3 means you are below the threshold. So it's very important that you address impact elements very well. And also the total threshold is not just the sum of the individual thresholds, it is 11 above 15. Another important factor is that there is a weighting factor for impact, 1.5 for impact, meaning that the score in impact is, let's say, even more important than in the other evaluation criteria. So this all points in the same direction. Be very mindful in covering all the aspects under expected outcomes. And this is an example for you to see what this ICOP is, okay? So how do we calculate this ICOP? We check the total eligible cost minus the requested EU contribution. And what is left is the ICOP. It is the money, the resources that big members provide to the project. So these resources divided by the total eligible cost of the project, they have to be over 20% for flagships and over 15% for the rest of innovation action. Okay, let's move now to the timeline of this call. The call is open since 24th of April and will close 18th of September. Then we will have a period of evaluation during the last months of the year, and applicants will receive their scores by February 2025, the very latest, possibly in January already. Then we will start what we call the GAP phase, the grant agreement preparation phase, where the successful proposals are turned into projects, into grant agreements, which need to be signed by May. So projects will typically start from May 25 onwards, can start May, June, or even September. So when preparing your proposal, there are two main sources of information. First is the Horizon Europe portal. This is where you have, where you will submit your proposal, and also where you have all the guidelines on how to prepare the proposal online. And then you have our website, where you can find the full work program with all the description of the topics. And then, very importantly, you have the frequently asked questions for applicants. This is a very useful document where we gather all the questions that we get from you, from applicants, we answer them and we publish them. So they are available for everyone. And you can also find a link to our networking platform. What is this networking platform? It is a tool that is free, available for you to allow you to search partners for your proposal. For example, you have an idea, you have a technology, but you know you need a certain feedstock, or you're looking for an industrial partner, you're looking for other type of partner. You can use this platform to find other partners or to be found. You can say, look, I'm this type of entity, I would like to do this type of project. Is anyone interested? So it's a very good place to present your project ideas, to showcase your expertise, to schedule meetings with other potential partners, and so on. So I encourage you to use it. And this is the first part of my presentation on the call 2024. I don't know if you want to have some questions now, or we continue with the presentation.
I think if anybody has a question to Barna or to Pilar about this topic, I mean the CBE JU et al. Or the 2020 calls, you can take your questions now. It's a time to ask. And after that, we will go to the second part or the third part of this info day session, the proposal writing. So if anybody has a question, please feel free to ask now.
I cannot see any hands or nothing, so you just take the floor, please.
Yeah, me also neither. So you don't have to raise your hand, but unmute yourself and ask the question. But in the chat box, I can see two questions. The first one is, I think, related to Barna. This question is, does this funding scheme support only consortial research or individual Hungarian labs as well? Is there an optimal size for a consortium?
Pilar also can answer this question better than probably me. So the question was, vagy elnézi, nem tudom, magyarul, angolul válaszoljak. That's a good question whether I should answer in English or Hungarian. Egyfelől nincs megszorítás abban az értelemben, hogy ki vehet részt, viszont magában egy labor nem vehet részt. A Horizont Europe szabályai érvényesek, tehát konzorciumban lehet pályázni, több szereplős pályázat a Horizont szerinti több ország, több szereplős pályázatot lehet beadni. I think I have to answer in English because Pilar also need to understand and see what I am answering, and she can complete my answer. So I was telling that Horizon rules are applying, and they cannot apply as a single entity, but in a consortium. There is no real size for a consortium. There is no average size of a consortium. We should not talk about in these terms. Depending on the different course and topics, the consortiums could have a different size. The question is more on, as Pilar was saying, the different criteria, whether you can answer those questions, so the topic itself, with 3, 4, 5 partners or 10 partners, and how effective is that? It really very much depends on the topic. I think I stop here. If Pilar, you can add something, please feel free. Then I see a Hungarian question, which is very specific. Maybe also Dorottya can come in, because I see there that how the alapítvány fenntartása egyetemek can apply, but that's another story. Yes.
I confirm what you explained, just to complement. So CBE JU project as Horizon Europe are mostly collaborative projects. So indeed, you need at least 3 entities from the EU or also from associated partners to build a consortium for your project. The only exception is CSAs. In CSAs, you can make a proposal on your own. But it is very important that you make sure that in that case, you have the full expertise to cover the requirement. And also, as Barna said, there is no ideal size for a consortium. We have projects, if you go to your website, we have projects from probably 5 partners to 20 partners. The important thing is that all expertise needed in the project is present. It's important that you also include in one way or another the main actors in the value chain, and that the partners are complementary, that they all bring the necessary expertise for the project. So it depends on the topic, it depends on the project. There is no optimal number of partners. Really, there is not. You can find excellent examples of a small consortium and excellent examples of very big consortia. So there's no point in adding partners just for the sake of making it big. You just need to make sure that all expertise needed is covered in the consortium.
Thank you very much. And the next question is related to me, and I will answer in Hungarian, because it's mentioned about the universities in Hungary, how they can relate it to the consortium and so on. So, kedves Ágnes, az alapítvány egyetemek is részt vehetnek a CBE JU felhívásokban, és ugyanúgy, ahogy a Horizon Europe felhívásokban, itt is a kormányzati önerő alapon keresztül tudja az NKFIH a kimaradt költségvetést pótolni. Is there any other questions now, or can we move on? I don't see any other questions in the chat, so I think, Pilar, we can move on to the presentation and the third part.
Okay, very good. Then, okay. So now we start the second part, let's say a bit practical, this is what is intended to be practical, to give you some tips on how to write a good proposal by going through the template and the evaluation criteria. So, important aspects you need to consider. First, the documents, core documents. This means the annual work program, your topic, but also these specific requirements are very, very important. It is also recommendable to read the strategic research and innovation agenda, because this will give you all the background of the CBE JU, and this will make the link with these strategic priorities that you will find in the topic, if you remember from the beginning of the presentation. So being acquainted with all the documents is very important. Second aspect, have good partners, select your partners. Good partners that together with you make a very complementary consortium and cover all the expertise needed for the project. And third part, of course, make a good proposal with a sound technical description that addresses all the elements that we will see. So this slide are similar one we saw before, meaning these are, I will not go again through it, but the important aspect is Horizon Europe framework and conditions, evaluation criteria, annual work program with the specific requirements and topics, and the proposal structures. So these are the main documents we will be working with. So let's find the match, the link between the proposal and the evaluation criteria. So where do you need to address all these aspects? So the proposal, this is how it looks like. You have a screenshot, the proposal template on the left and right hand side, but the main sections are this one, excellence, which is about the science, the technology, the methodology behind your project. So what is your objective and what is the methodology you're using? Second part is the impact, which are the expected economic, environmental, societal impacts, and what are the measures to maximize the impact, meaning dissemination, exploitation, communication measures. And the third part is how. How are you going to do this? What is your work plan? How is your budget? What are your partners? How are you going to organize the work in work packages? So these three blocks are the ones you need to fill in the proposal, and that also will be evaluated. So here is about building the link between the topic, the proposal, and the evaluation grid. The scope, it's about the excellence, the objective, so it will be mostly be linked to the excellence part. The expected outcomes and impacts are mostly linked to the section impacts in your proposal. And then you have the implementation part, which you need to develop structuring your work. And these three elements, excellence, impact, and implementation, have their own sub-criteria to be evaluated. So what do you need to include in the, let's go now in more detail, which aspect do you need to include when you prepare your proposal, the part B, the narrative part. First is about the objectives and ambition. So first thing we want to see, the objectives. Are they clear? So is it clear what you want to do? Is well defined? Second, are they pertinent to the topic? Because maybe they are very interesting objectives, but they are going beyond or they are falling short. No, you should not do more or less. You should try to stick to what the topic is requiring. And third aspect, are these objectives quantified? Are they measurable and verifiable? So this thing you need to consider for the objectives. When it comes to the ambition, is the project going beyond the state of the art? So we are working with research and innovation, so we are expecting to find solutions that are advancing the state of the art. But for that, of course, you need to explain what is the state of the art and include the necessary references of what is being done in your field and how you are moving it beyond the state of the art. So the proposal needs to be ambitious and need to be innovative, but it also has to be realistic at the same time. So there's you have to find the balance. Very important as well is to specify clearly the TRL. especially of your core technologies. We said that the topic defines what should be your end TRL, where you should be getting at. But for that, you need to explain where are you starting from. So you want to get to TRL 5, where are you starting? In TRL 3, in TRL 2? How are you going to get there? So this has to be very clear. You can specify TRLs for different technologies. Of course, you may have core technologies and you may have auxiliary technologies. So it's very important that the core technologies are targeting the TRL that is in the topic text. You may have some technologies that are at a slightly lower TRL or higher TRL. Yes, you may, but this should not be the core of the project. Okay, so there you have to be careful. Most of the technologies, the core technologies, should be at the requested TRL. This is very important. Second, about the methodology. So there are different aspects to consider in the methodology. First, that you are using the appropriate one, fitting your research and your objectives. And there are some additional things to consider. You remember in the specific requirements, we mentioned about the feedstock. It has to be sustainably sourced, it has to comply with the food first and cascading principles. It has to be within the feedstocks that are in scope in our program, which are defined in the SRIA, and so on. So this you need to explain also in this methodological, let's say, section. And you also need to include the ex-ante environmental performance. So how your processes and products are going to outperform, to perform better than the existing alternatives. And special mention to AI. So it is becoming more and more common to include artificial intelligence. This is okay. It is not required. You may include it if you want. But if you include it, you have to make sure that it is well explained, that it's not there just because it's a trend now to include it. No, you include it for a good reason and you explain how you're going to use it. Otherwise, it can backfire. Maybe you include it because you think it's better to mention artificial intelligence, but if you don't explain how you're going to use it, it will be assessed negatively. So if you don't need it, it's better not to include it. Continuing with the methodology. It's also important, there are some aspects to consider, such as the gender dimension, if there is a gender dimension in your research. In some cases, there might not be. The digital technologies we were mentioning before, if you are including digital technologies, explain it here. Also make sure that the cross-disciplinarity and the social science and social humanities are incorporated in your methodology whenever they are needed, and that the multi-actor approach is well integrated in the methodology as well, meaning you are considering all the necessary actors along the life of the project. There are also some aspects regarding the open science practices. So, as you know, this is a Horizon Europe requirement to make your data as much as possible available, of course, as long as it does not interfere with your exploitation strategy. Let's move now to the impact. So the impact section in the proposal is related to the expected outcomes and impacts that you find in the topic. So you need to make sure you explain clearly what are your contributions to the outcomes in the topic text. And what are the impacts, so scientific, economical, societal, etc. What is the scale and significance of this contribution? Again, here, quantifying helps to make it more robust and more reliable. Which target groups, which societal actors will benefit? Did you consider potential barriers to the impact? Do you have mitigating measures, etc.? So these are aspects that you should be considering in the impact part. Then we go to the measures to maximize the impact. And with this, we mean measures to disseminate project results, to communicate project activities to different audiences. Here it's important to identify properly your target audiences and choose the appropriate channels and materials to reach them. And also it's about the strategy you're going to use to exploit these results, including your IPR, intellectual property rights management structure. And when it comes to specific requirements, it is here in this section also where we check the economic viability for research and innovation actions, the business case and business model for innovation action, and for the business plan for the flagships, you have a specific annex you can use with no page limit to explain your business plan. And we go to implementation. So once you have your excellence and impact of the project clear, so the next question is how you're going to get there. How is your work plan? You need to define a work plan that is balanced in the use of resources, that is well structured, that has all the necessary work packages that are interlinked among them. You need to define and appropriate deliverables and milestones, and to have a proper resource allocation to different tasks, but also to different partners. And here in this section, you will have to, as you see, to work on the work packages and list of deliverables, milestones, also the critical risk for implementation, identify the most critical risks and the mitigation measures, and the staff and budget allocation. Okay, it's also important to consider what are the management structures and procedures for your project. It will depend on the number of partners, the way you're working. This has to be also clearly explained in the implementation section. And as for CBE JU specific requirements, you might remember that we ask for innovation actions to include LCA or LCSA, and for RIAs to include environmental assessment. So this needs to be present in your work program. And as well, for innovation actions, you should dedicate a task to provide recommendation to stakeholders. And we move to the composition of your consortium. And we were a bit talking about this in the previous question. So most important is that your consortium brings together all the partners the necessary expertise to the project. They need to be complementary, and they all need to have a valid role. So as I said, there is no point in just bringing in more partners just for the sake of having a lot of partners if they don't have a well-defined role or a clear expertise that is fitting to the projects. So just choose well the partners regarding their expertise and role in the project. And if a participant is based in a third country which is not eligible for funding, so because you have some countries where can request funding and some others that cannot, this is specified in the annex of the Horizon Europe. If some of those that are not receiving funding, they are asking for funding, you need to explain very well why this entity is essential and should receive funding, and we will assess if an exception can be made. So very important, build a strong consortium. Again and again, this is one of the core elements. I mentioned before the networking platform. So of course, if you already know partners, entities you want to work with, this is great. But if you are missing some others, this is a good place to find it. You can also have their networking opportunities. Make sure apart from having the right expertise, the right role, make sure that there is a strong commitment of all your partners to the project, because it's collaborative projects, and if one or more of the partners fail, this can impact all the other partners. This can impact the overall performance of the project. So you have to make sure that there is a high level of commitment and that you trust, and there is trust between the partners. And you also need to discuss already previously the IPR. What is the background IPR? What are your ideas for exploitation? So that you will avoid negative surprises then over the course of the project. Plus, you are requested to sign a consortium agreement between the partners before the signature of the grant agreement, where you will deal with all the IPR matters. And so, as a final recommendation, we talked of topic eclipse as a visual, explanation of what we mean. So your proposal should exactly fit the topic. You should fulfill all the requirements. Every word counts. The work program are written by the Commission and by VIC together in an iterative process with the advice of the advisory body, Scientific Committee and SRG, where Barna is participating. They examine all the words, all the content. So everything what is in the topic text is there for a reason. So you should cover all. But also, don't think that covering more is beneficial. Maybe you think, I will do even more. No, don't. It's not advisable, because if you go beyond or you do things, you develop products or processes that are not requested, then it means you are using part of the budget to activities that are not in the work program. And this is also not evaluated positively. So for the optimal evaluation, you really need to craft your proposal in a way that it fits to the topic text and the specific requirements. And let me share with you some lessons learned from the past calls. So there are some things we've been observing and we would like to share with you. This graph shows how to explain the proposals in a timeline according to the time where they started to prepare the proposals in the portal. And we found an interesting trend, that is that the most part of the successful proposals, they were started earlier, in an earlier phase. And if you look at the end, there are a lot of red dots, meaning that those proposals that really wait until the last moment, until the last month, to start the preparation and to start the preparation in the portal, most of them do not succeed. So there is a strong correlation here, we observe, between the time where you start preparing the proposal and the success. So conclusion, it's start early enough because you need to build a strong consortium, because you have to think through your proposal. You need to find time to draft it, to find the agreement between partners, and you have more chance of succeeding if you start to do it earlier. So you are encouraged to do so, and also to start encoding everything in the portal. Do not wait until the last moment. We want to share with you as well an analysis we made of the evaluation summary reports. These are the reports that the applicants get after the evaluations. And we said, okay, let's have a look. Where are the most common shortcomings? We call shortcomings those elements, let's say, pitfalls, negative elements that we find in the proposals and that lower the score when evaluating them. So the most frequently, we find the shortcomings in these aspects you're seeing. First, in impact, in the expected outcomes. You remember as well that the threshold here is 4 out of 5 and that the weighting factor is 1.5. So impact is very important. If you fail in impact, it will have a big impact. So it will really affect your score a lot. So make sure you address impact well. Also, implementation is a part where the work plan, where there are often shortcomings. The work packages are not well balanced, the timing is not fine, the resources are not appropriate, maybe deliverables are not well thought through, the tasks are not well described. These are things that we find. The excellence. There are also many shortcomings in the ambition level, in the going beyond the state of the art. Sometimes this is not clear how the proposal goes beyond the state of the art. On the TRL, very important that you target the right TRL and that you explain how you're going to get there. So these are the most frequent places where we find shortcomings. So make sure that you address them well. There are normally shortcomings in the risk and mitigation measures, so don't overlook that. It's very important to identify the critical risks and to propose good mitigation measures, and also to cover all the bullet points that are in scope. And where are the most frequent weaknesses in proposals? And weakness is something more serious. If we find a weakness, what we call weakness is a strong negative aspect that, let's say, kills the proposal, automatically brings it below the threshold. So where do we normally find weaknesses? Often in the methodology. So the methodology is not appropriate for the objectives of the project, or is not clearly developed. The expert cannot understand what you're going to do in the project. Often also in the excellence, the TRLs levels are not the right ones. Or maybe you're aiming at the right TRL, but you're starting with a very low TRL. Then it's not credible that you will reach the final one. Again, the going beyond the state of the art, it is often not well explained. And again, the scope, all the requirements on the scope are sometimes not well addressed. This is what we say here. So most of the weaknesses are in excellence. This is where you explain the concept and the objectives and the methodology. And as I said here, you cannot hide a bad idea. If there's something wrong in your, let's say, scientific or technological approach, it possibly leads to a weakness. So make sure that you elaborate this well in your proposal. And finally, just a few words as a recap on how to prepare a good proposal. First, as I said, with this eclipse, if you remember, make sure that you stay within the scope of the topic. Everything what is in the topic should be in your proposal. Second, make sure that your idea is ambitious and go beyond the state of the art, but at the same time is credible, not unrealistic. Third, the methodology is appropriate to your project, and also takes all these multidisciplinarity aspects, gender aspect, open science, environmental aspects. So it's has to be quite a comprehensive methodological part in your proposal. Of course, the impact section, I cannot stress enough how important it is. The impact, it has a weight 1.5, threshold 4. So make sure you address all the outcomes and impacts very clearly. And that you explain as well the measures to maximize the impact with a plan for dissemination and exploitation, and also having appropriate communication activities. And last but not least, how to, the implementation part. It has to be well structured, with a good allocation of resources, and with the right participants. And as for the background documents, most important is the annual work plan 24, of course, where you find the topic and the specific requirements, but also the strategic research and innovation agenda is very important to understand where we come from in CBE JU and what we want to accomplish with the whole program and how you can contribute to it. And with this, I finish, and I thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Pilar. And I would like to ask if you have any questions, then please feel free to ask any of us.
Or if you don't have questions now, you are always welcome either to contact me directly or to write. You can see here, info CBE Europa EU. You can send there your questions about the topics, about the rules of participation, about anything.
So if nobody has questions now, I would like to say a special thanks to Pilar and Barna. We are very happy to be here, and I would like to really thank you for the presentations. And I also would like to thank you for our audience to be here, your questions, your comments, and thank you very much again, and have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye to all of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Sziasztok, viszlát.